Board of Supervisors is back in session on the final budget hearing from the lunch recess. To Ms. Glassy at this point.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a good lunch. Anyway, we thought we'd start out this afternoon by very quickly going through the notebook with the currency on the cover, just to let you know what was in it. We didn't do that this morning, and it'll take all of about 2 minutes. But we wanted to make sure you knew what was there. And then I've got some answers for the questions that came up earlier today. And then we'll start working through if there are other concerns or whatever, and then we'll start working through the spreadsheet. So, you wanna...
Okay, in your notebook, we have added some supplemental documents, and just very briefly, and Exhibit C, we did a revised fixed asset schedule based on some of the housekeeping adjustments that were done that you reflect equipment purchases, additional equipment purchases, so we updated the fixed asset list for you. Exhibit D would be the review of the county spreadsheet, which is what we've been looking at, and it's not in here. It may not be in your minders, but you have a copy. Exhibit E is the staffing growth comparison, which we provided to the board every year, and this was at a particular point in time. So these aren't actual final they may not be actual final allocated positions anyway, or funded positions if they've switched around, but it should be pretty close to what we come in to ask the board to approve on September 9th when HR comes in and asks for the position allocation to be approved by the board. Just to give you an idea of the ongoing comparison.
Okay, before we move on.
I got a question on your fixed assets page down here in 3010, road maintenance. It says surplus sale vehicles and equipment. That's a revenue. Why is it listed on the same as the other expenditures for buying fit? Shouldn't that be just put someplace else on a revenue? Because that's for revenue, that's not a purchase. That's got to be a mistake. Is that $40,000 what they're anticipating from their sale of surplus equipment? It's not a purchase, it's not a fixed asset purchase.
I think it is, but I just don't think it's worded right. I think what's going on there is it should say that there was some, and if I remember the conversation with Howard DeShield, the surplus of sale vehicles and equipment, there's some surplus available to purchase more additional vehicles and equipment. And that's why it says it like that, but I don't think it's quite worded right.
Yeah, because the rest of it's clearly they're going to buy those pieces of equipment.
But they're using surplus, and I think they just didn't word it.
But that's a revenue. That's what they're expecting to get is $40,000 from their surplus vehicle sale.
Correct, but for the fixed asset sheet itself, we had to list that they're going to purchase an additional $40,000 worth of equipment with that. So I think it should have just said vehicles and equipment.
Okay.
Is there any other question?
Is that it, Supervisor?
That's
Okay. So moving on to Exhibit F in your notebooks, we provided you the asset forfeiture and seizure account balances for what is in there between the district attorney and the sheriff's office for your information. And then Exhibit G is some various supplemental information that I thought that you might want to have updated, which was just a salary and benefit graph comparison versus discretionary revenue, which highlights basically the difference in and this was as a proposed budget of by percentage of salary and benefits, versus the discretionary revenue that we have to work with. And as you can see, 66% of the 66.3% is what we're showing for salary and benefits versus discretionary revenue, as a portion to the budget in comparison. Discretionary budget, by the way. Okay. Then the next graph is a 10-year comparative history for funded positions. kind of just is a different way of looking at what I had already given you before. The distribution of $1 in property tax for 2008-09. This is basically the proposed budget number. And just a reminder that for every dollar in property tax revenue that we get in, the county only gets 30%.
Question on that.
Supervisor?
I thought it was 27%, and shouldn't that say state instead of schools up there? It
No.
goes to the state.
It should say schools, because that's the distribution to the schools.
60%, 3% goes strictly to schools?
Yes.
I
And
thought that
then,
went to the state,
and it is
and then-
30%.
I thought that went to the state, and then the state reapportioned it to the schools.
It is the portion that we distribute out, the auditor distributes out to the schools for K-19 program.